And we're back. Sorry for the lapse in service. Things just got a little bit too hectic last week. My man Anthony was out of town. Yep. I was busy doing the stuff and the things, and we just didn't get around to it.
You want to make it sound more like a drug deal? Or?
Was it? We don't condone. No, it's just...
It took me a long time to work out of that, so we're going to...
Yeah, that was actually I think the last article that aired on the blog was one of the last.
One of my buddies. Yep.
So yeah, don't do drugs, kids. Read the blog, learn about that.
It's not good for anybody.
And on the subject of the blog, which you can find what's left of it at smart2noise.blogspot.com. Oh, excuse me. It's the busy season for us guys who are church sound guys. I'm busy making a movie. We've got concert events, we've got local events, we've got events coming out of our ears. So I've been just a little too frazzled to sit down and think coherently enough to write, which is too bad because writing is really that's kind of a release for me. It gets things sorted out. I feel better after I do it. So I've been contenting myself by just hanging out in a couple of forums and writing brief answers to guys' questions. So if things improve a little bit time-wise and if we get on top of things a little bit, the articles will start showing up again. But we have by no means abandoned the blog, and if you stop by there, check out some of the 200 and some previous posts that we've got. Let us know if there's anything we missed, anything we got wrong, anything you'd like us to write more about.
Yep.
And we'll eventually get right after that, hopefully sometime before the new year.
Right.
It's a shame, too, because... readership was really starting to take off there. I had a couple of really good months, and then I just stopped writing.
Well, not because you want to stop writing, more or less because we actually have jobs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got 10 topics backed up. I got one post half written, and I ran out of steam. So fear not if you're a reader of the blog. It's coming. It'll be back. We're actually hoping to. We kind of lost track after a while. I was hoping to get one post per day for the entire year, see if we can keep that up. But the quality's going to suffer if we go to that. So anyway, welcome to the Smart to Noise Ratio Pro Audio Podcast. I'm your humble host, John Dayton, and over to my left is Anthony Kosobucki.
Hey, ladies.
Chewing on pumpkin seeds, taking in the World Series, watching the boys of summer and their playoff beards get the last of their game on. And the cat's doing something naughty. So anyway, we got a little bit sidetracked. It's been one long day of getting sidetracked. I spent a good long while after my rehearsal that I came from tonight, just jawboning with the guitar player, talking about rock and metal and guitar-y things. And by the time I got over here, I had Lemmy on the brain, so we sat around talking about Lemmy and Dave Grohl and Motorhead and metal and
all the great things that could happen, regardless of as sad as it would be if Lemmy died. The wonderful support of Dave Grohl, because if Foo Fighters aren't doing anything, what else does Dave Grohl have to do other than
he's got to at least do a one-off with the surviving members of Motorhead? God. And I'm thinking they should probably just rent out Wembley Stadium and do something like they did for Freddie Mercury. You know, it can be like a lung cancer awareness thing too.
And Smart Noise readers can support our trip over there.
That's right, kids. Visit the Smart to Noise web portal store and buy a black ribbon in support of the Lemmy Memorial Concert. Now, let's see.
It only costs $2,500.
Yeah, that was a thought. Like, I remember what happened when who was the drummer from Kiss that died? Which Eric was it? Eric Singer?
He looked like a cat, so I didn't really care.
No, he's still alive. The other one.
Oh, not David or not Chris.
No, was it Eric Carr or Eric Singer?
I don't know.
No.
It's not Peter Criss.
No, it's not Peter Criss. It's some guy named Eric. Anyway.
I don't really care.
One of the drummers from Kiss died, and a buddy of mine didn't go to work for 3 days. I'm thinking a good portion of the world is going to have it go down like that. The day
I hope more than that, because really, I mean, if anybody watches Family Guy, nobody really likes the drummer from Kiss. It's Ace Frehley or Gene Simmons. That's really about it. That's it.
Oh, and Paul Stanley.
Yeah, Paul Stanley's not bad.
All right. Well, anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about, but go listen to some Motorhead. Enjoy yourself with that. We got asked by our friend Blake, who who was not drunk, by the way. I had a couple of questions. He was not hammered at the one podcast that he was on. He's got a bit of a speech impediment is all. So he's like that, rain or shine, day or night. That's just our Blake, and we love him for it anyway.
Right, I'm usually drunk.
He is.
I just lost my job. Damn. Go on.
You just lost your job?
I don't know.
You got to stop munching on pumpkin seeds. It's getting hard to understand you. Anthony just has an eating impediment.
Damn. Well, if that adds
just
to
tuck some between your cheek and gum there.
If that adds to me being fat and tanning a little bit more, playing bass better, I'm okay with that.
Anthony's biggest dream as a young Jewish kid growing up was to someday be the wealthiest black soul musician.
But not black. If I could embody James Jamerson, any sort of mean, I would. I'd lose at least 2 fingers a hand, I guess. Maybe one. I don't know. Enough fingers. It's getting out of hand. We should get back on topic before I say something awful.
It might be too late for that. So moving on. Our buddy Blake asked us if we would do a podcast on the pros and cons, the merits, the trade-offs of ye oldie timey analogy console with the new digital breed.
You're right. So, an H3K versus a PM5D, and
well, that's easy.
What part of a soul we have to sell to go to a PM5D over an H3K?
Yeah, I wouldn't take a Yamaha for any. The Yamaha's one of those ones like you'd chew your arm off to get away from if you woke up next to it.
I remember I was playing with Carl and a band that I used to play with, Relevant. It was now Brothers McClurg. And we played in a venue, and the sound guy was like, "Well, how does it sound?" And Carl looked over. He's like, "It sounds crispy." And that was about it. Before the sound guy looks like, "Listen, dude, we can't all have a sound craft." He's like, "Well, it sounds crispy enough." And we went out and played 2 sets.
As that gig we got to in Canada, that was all Behringer. It was an all Behringer rig. Oh,
crispy doesn't begin to describe what we went through.
Wow, it's somehow
crispy would have been nice, really.
Really sharp, yet also soft and flabby. It wasn't one of those crispy on the outside, chewy in the middle kind of situations.
It was in fact not a Hot Pocket.
But we digress. I didn't do any prep for this show. I don't know what we're going to do. Okay. I can talk about it endlessly, though, so this will probably be like the first double podcast. You can double live.
We both did enough work on an M7 at that one Relevant show that you and me and Kevin were back running monitors, and they... I don't know what retard did it, but somebody decided to link both of our consoles so we could keep screwing with Carl the whole time and reprogramming his.
Changing all the icons.
Oh, yeah. Well, I changed the icons, changed the mix presets and flying faders and stuff. I was actually playing. It was you and Kevin pretty much mixing. Well, you were mixing monitors. Kevin was
just standing there looking good.
Well, as good as Kevin could. And going around patching and stuff. And I remember we were like, hold on, wait. There's a remote function. While Carl's standing in front of the house just watching his faders jump all over the place. We're like, wait, stop. Hold on, wait. Damn, it's a jazz band now.
All right, well, yeah, anyway. Well, I don't know. Are we going to, review every... we haven't mixed on enough. I've tasted a few, but, yeah, the big trade-off, I guess, is... With a digital console, you get the benefit of easy repeatability, quick changes, a multitude of ins and outs in a small footprint. Mm-hmm. And the crux of the matter is whether or not the manufacturer has managed to do all of those things that it wants to do in a format that makes sense. Because really, it doesn't matter if you can address a gross of inputs and
256 outputs when really you need 6,
or if you can't find anything, or if if the paging is stupid.
That's one of the problems that personally I've had with Yamaha desks, because I've worked with like an M7 and an LS9 more than anything else. I would love to sit and just kind of bask and touch myself to a VI 4 or 6, but when it comes down to it, everybody's got, any touring band. When we went and saw Foo Fighters, it was Foo Fighters had an old, probably late 70s, early 80s Midas H3K, and the opening bands had a PM5D apiece.
It might have been an XL.
No,
the Foos?
No, for the Foos, it was a H3K.
I was, not ashamed to say it, folks, pretty drunk. I had a second beer that evening.
And a half, yeah.
I was hanging on to the barrier for dear life.
So that's why we put John next to Barry, but I had probably at least a case and a half myself. I'm a much larger individual than John is, so I can soak it in like air. But the two opening bands had both PM5Ds. And they didn't sound bad, but there's a warmth, like an atmosphere almost to the Foos mix, and I wouldn't it for a second get rid of the fact that their sound guy. It was I'm pretty sure the whole tour was a Rat tour.
I never looked it up
because most of the time, if you look at Dave Grohl on his guitar strap that holds his wireless pack, it's a Rat.
He's got the Rat sticker.
System.
Actually, you know what? It might have been. Let's go back and look that up.
I'm almost positive it was a Rat tour, but Dave wasn't doing the whole thing. I think he was on tour with the Chili Peppers or something like that. But still, there's almost an ambience where it sounds more congruent. It flows a little bit better. Like with the opening bands, it was a mariachi band, and I think Rise Against were the two opening bands. But you could definitely hear all the instruments, but they didn't sync together, I guess, as much.
Yeah, there was some separation, like things weren't gelling. The thing I don't like, and this is a Yamaha thing, because I feel like it happens on their analog desks too, is the best you can ever hope to do with a Yamaha desk, if you can keep it from clipping out, the best you can hope to do is clean, but not good. There's just something, and that's sort of the Japanese sound. I heard somebody say, like, Japanese desks tend to sound sharper, British desks tend to sound warmer and more round and full, and American desks are somewhere in between. So I would go along with that. Like the Japanese stuff is really kind of harsh sounding to gaijin ears, I guess. Yeah. But the M7CL, LS, PM, PM5, those are all really rider friendly. Yamaha's pretty deep.
They do. Like when you got a rider and stuff, if you say like, listen, I've got a PM5D or PM1D. If you can still find them, one of the churches around here still has a PM1D.
Right.
Which I don't know whether to marvel at or laugh at. I'm like, wow, that's a killer desk. It's a $100,000 desk. But I can get the same sound if I just stab somebody in the face with an ice pick. But
they are easy to use. They're really pretty easy to use. M7, I learned it in 10 minutes. I was fluent on it in half an hour.
And those are the ones that actually have physical faders for every 48 channels. Like,
that for me was crucial for a small format desk in monitor world.
Even though they're kind of laid out, kind of like it starts on top left, works down to bottom left, and then works over to right, and then works up. Like once you get it, it's not so bad. But it's one of those things like. Once you're used to using it, like I personally love having the actual 48 physical faders instead of having to hit page.
That did make it a lot easier.
Background vocal, right?
A lot for monitor world where you got to react really fast, where musicians don't have time to do much more than make eye contact with you and
point at somebody.
Yeah. So that helped me react quick. Although what I will say is that what I said a minute ago is, getting all the ins, all the outs, all the processing sorted out. The thing that really matters is how easy is it to use. And the first digital desk that ever did that for me was the Soundcraft VIs. I got to see those at a demo before they were even out, actually.
He even had pants on when he did it, believe it or not. Well, for a little while, at least.
For a minute. And now they're like four software generations later, so things are only ever getting better. But that was the first digital mixer I looked at. I mean, I figured, whatever, that's for the big boys, or it's not for me. I'm never going to do that. It's there. I don't have enough use, for scene presets or anything like
minus dollar availability.
Yeah, and the money. They were still pretty expensive at the time. It was a $100,000 console for the VI6, but it was the first digital console that I walked up to it and I looked at it. And everything immediately made sense.
Right.
And then they told me about some of the stuff that you wouldn't necessarily guess from looking at it on the face.
But with those giant, what is it, 6 or 9 across? The actual LCD touchscreen type things where you can pull up and...
Yeah, there's bays of 8. And again, with what you have is on every single fader, there's a nice little, it's about the size of a cell phone, an old school cell phone screen, I guess. And you can see everything that's going on with the channel, the routing, the dynamics, the gating, the compression.
Any auxiliary effects that you're going to put in.
Yep. So you can see all of that, and you can pull up aux mixes on the faders. The other cool thing was it was the first digital desk that 2 guys could easily mix at. Like there was none of this like you got to poke something and then do all your stuff on the fat channel and whatever. Like you can get everywhere you need to go, like right from a section of the console. And so Anth could be down, on the 1 through 8 section, and I could be all the way at the opposite end of the desk. And if he's busy tuning the gates on toms and I hear something I don't like about the hi-hat, I can pull double faders 1 through 8 into my bay of faders in front of me.
Which is killer, like, especially for the kind of stuff that we mix, like, even, festivals going back and stuff, like, there'll definitely be times where John's mixing to the left of the bus section, I'm mixing to the right and stuff, and it really helps out a lot where...
You can't do that on a Presonus, kids.
Right. If I'm screwing with something down the right end of the board, John could be so screwing with something on the left end of the board, and it's not screwing with each other. Like, I know what I want to hear from something, he knows what he wants to hear from something, and we can still do that all at the same time and get a gorgeous mix, because if I can hear something better than him or he can hear something better than me, we can do that all at the same time and mix it all in and make it jelly.
Yep. And you can definitely work like that. In fact, I almost prefer it sometimes, especially if we're working fast. But there's a certain etiquette that you develop when you're mixing on the same console with somebody else. In the old school, if we're standing in front of my Midas at work, if he's tweaking the EQ on the toms and I want to touch the hi-hat, I can do that. You got to dance a little bit, but it's tough to do that on other digital consoles.
We don't mind being close at all. I mean,
there's a space bubble, and you exist within that.
We've slept in the same room and stuff, but
on the same bus, same tent,
same bus, same room, same. Hey, Peter, where are your pants? Yeah,
but we digress. So anyway, this isn't very systematic, but I think you can kind of see where we're going here. The nice thing is that, at the upper levels, things are really sort of coming together. Like even, there are very, very few holdouts who are just purists, which is bound to happen. I mean,
right.
But there are very few holdouts who just absolutely will not mix on a digital console. Like Dave Rass, one of them. He's a Midas man. And
he actually likes the Pro 2 and the Pro 6. I can't remember. It wasn't Chili Peppers. It was somebody else, but he mixed a whole tour on Pro 6s,
right?
Which are digital desks, but have a very, very analog feel to them. Like they've got all the knobs for aux sends, all the knobs for EQ, and all that stuff. But at the same time, they all mix into an external DSP,
right? And that's what's come a long way. Is those DSPs are getting really, really good. The internal clock rates on those are stratospherically high,
better than in the studio.
So it's really good enough now. There's just really not any excuse. I mean, it's not that they're lacking horsepower. It's the implementation. So like, and you can hear it. Like the digital Yamahas sound a lot like the analog Yamahas. It's really a cultural thing. I think more than a hardware thing anymore. So I guess the other real big advantage, the reason that I would want to go digital is like you can have a digital desk that sounds, as good, if not better, I think, in some cases.
And if you can drop plugins in, like if you can drop a stack of Neve preamps in or API preamps, that kind of feel into it, like it's not going to be the same, but you're going to take away that nice little ice pick Yamaha feel. Really.
Well, we don't have to assume that the imaginary desk we're mixing on is Yamaha. I mean, it could be a Soundcraft or a Midas or something. But it's really just a choice. Like you can, some guys prefer this, they prefer that, just like they did with the old analog desks. The nice thing about a digital desk in general is the repeatability.
Right.
And I'm of two minds of this. Like, I would not want to do it for rock, although you kind of do in the analog world. I mean, if you're touring, working for the same band every night, you don't zero the board when you put it in the case.
Right, exactly. Like you want to kind of keep it. Like if you can do all your stuff post, like plug in a drive rack or whatever pink noise generator you're gonna do. If you can get back to at least really, really close to what you're starting with, and you just got to tweak a little bit, that's a lot better than zeroing out and starting fresh.
Or you can play back the multi-track from last night's show and see how that behaves in the room you're in now. But I think the thing about automation that a lot of people are scared of, and they don't want to go into it, and this is why I was resistant to it for a long time, is, guys were, what was that little Yamaha, the 01V? A couple of years ago, 12, 15 years ago. Yeah, guys were 16-channel. Guys were mixing bar bands on these. And like, yeah, this is great. I got to set up for the stumbling in, and I got to set up for Joey's place, and I got to set up for outside, and I just punch a button, and I'm ready to go. I'm like, all right, but what if you sucked when you saved that? Or what if you were okay then and you're better now, but you pulled up the mix for when you were just okay?
But realistically, those guys are not better.
But for anybody, I mean, I don't want to necessarily trust the sound guy that I was when I saved some presets. My boss and I have gone, not really argued about it, but just exchanged philosophy about it. His last place, his sound guy, if the band was just doing great, he'd save it, and then the next time that song came up, he'd pull it back up again. I don't know, I like to feel like I'm a little more important to the process than that.
Right, than just pulling up presets. Like, if you gotta, honestly, we have practices, the church that I work at, we have practices on Thursday for Sunday mornings, so what I'll start is, actually tomorrow I'm going to re-pink noise the room and re-zero everything, but on Thursdays what I'll do is I'll start from zero. I play guitar in the band, so what I'll have to do is get the drum set, get everything pretty much cooking to the point where I know that I can grab a guitar and just jump in and play, and it's okay. And after that, on Sunday morning, the engineer on Sunday mornings will compensate for if I'm playing too loud, playing too soft, whatever, all that kind of stuff, and he'll sort it out from there. But I like the almost general. I do. I like coming in cold and working up from there every single week, because certain people are going to play harder certain weeks. Some people are going to play softer. Some people are going to play different according to vocals or guitars or bass, any kind of that stuff. So I feel like, at least in my setting, that's not appropriate to come from a preset every week.
Yeah, and I'm not, even working for the same band, I don't work for the same band every week. I always have different musicians, but even if it was the same band, I mean, they're not going to be in the same spot.
Right.
So I want to mix to...
Hopefully they progress as musicians and as people.
Yep. So I want to mix to where they're at. Now, for other stuff, like mixing down, it's great to be able to automate mixes.
Yeah.
If you are working with tape, to have a digital console with automation in it, so you don't need all 5 guys in the band to come put hands on the mixer. And
I need to pull down less than a quarter of a decibel on this right now. Stop. Nope. Son of a.
But that's the way they used to mix. I mean, you had your cues and you went along. But in the theater, it's terrific. I mean, to have your mutes go from scene to scene to scene, and faders sort of jump to a close spot, and then you just pick it up. Or in rock or in church, being able to swap, even if you can use the automation for whatever you want. For me, what hangs me up in church a bunch is I have to take my head out of mixing to refigure signal routing at different points. Okay, quick, while they're doing the announcements, I need to change the levels on everybody's click track volumes, because for whatever reason, this clicks a little off, or they're just not feeling it for the next song. So I know I got to change that. I've got a backup singer who's going to take lead on this song, so I've got to put their monitor, put them into everybody's mix, change the delay times, change how my reverb sits, change the tone of the relationship of the kick in, kick out, snare top, snare bottom,
exactly,
guitar channels.
And that's a not necessarily a problem, but an additive to an analog mix, where if you have all this stuff, you got the musicians who are prepared enough to just hit next scene. If they're
having to write
to do that, they can do that.
Right. So yeah, using it, I would tend to not use automation for my mixing, but I would very much use it for changing my patches, getting things squared away.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So that's where automating the repeatability of a digital console comes in. The other big thing is, we were talking about quality a little bit ago, and I'm sorry, I'm starting to munch on pumpkin seeds now too. You just
happens.
You have to deal with that.
They're tasty. I'll give you that.
I also got to apologize quick. Apparently, I brought another bad mic cord. There's some cutouts before, so if things dropped out a little bit ago,
pause that in a second.
Sorry about that.
Swap out while while I take a leak.
You're such a classy broad.
More than a classy broad.
Shoot, now I forgot what we were talking about. We need to mute this or something now. Like, the game's over already. Yeah, all right, pause. All right, so it's been a few minutes since we actually hit pause and repatched and wound up talking about a whole bunch of other stuff before we press record again. So I'll see if we can pick up where we left off. Probably not, though. Some of the stuff, the reasons we wanted to bring up going digital is some of my favorite things about them is the fact that they're really getting good enough now where if you need, just a bajillion outputs or something like that, like looking at that for my band at work, like I could really use at least twice as many mix outs as I have now. And to do that on an analog frame would be a serious outlay. There are a lot of, some of them even pretty small physical formats on the digital side that could do that just no problem.
Yeah.
And there is something digitals have going for them. I almost feel like if they are maybe lacking a little something in the warmth department, there's a clarity that's in there. I think what Anthony was saying before is how you hear some separation, and it seems like the instruments aren't all really gelling together. I had a little experience a bit ago where Carl brought me a Soundcraft SI3 to try for a week. So we pulled the Midas Legend 3K out of the way, popped that thing in, and immediately there was just this clarity. And it was enough that everybody noticed. Like, people that don't usually notice the sound at all were like, what happened? Yeah, like, we should get one of those. So I was really excited there for a minute, but it didn't work out this budget year. But I digress again. I think what it is they're good enough and they're clean enough that they really separate the men from the boys. Like, there's the same way that line arrays do on the speaker side of things. Like, there's no fudge factor. There's no schmear. There's nothing at all to hide behind. Like, you have to know exactly where you're going with the sound and make it go there. There's no close enough.
It's not necessarily night or day, but if you got that kind of product going in, you've got it's the same thing. Like, garbage comes in, garbage comes out. But if you got way better than garbage, professional quality stuff going in, you got a better attempt and grasp of something better going out than being handicapped by a certain desk or a certain set of outboard pre's and all that kind of stuff than just getting stuck behind what I've got, really.
Yeah.
Everybody loves an M3K, right? Nope. If you do, please email me so I can just buy a ticket and slap you. But
so there's definitely something there in terms of just the ability to churn out perfectly clean, perfectly clear audio and just have it be what it is. And if you do decide that you want some coloration, then fine, you plug in some pre's. Or if it's if you're on a desk that can give you plugins, you can throw in pre-plugins, you can tube plugins, whatever. The venue comes to mind, being able to drop in all the waves.
I was just going to say that where, all the digital design stuff Avid now is, like even with Pro Tools, they got the channel strip plugin, which is getting the channel strip from an Avid or a digital design venue or a D-Series channel strip where you've got all your dynamics, all your gates, your compressors, your EQs and all that stuff. And if you really need to, pull up your presets and stuff. Like, I definitely use the presets for recording and stuff. Like, if I'm going to go in a live track, drums and bass and guitar at the same time, like, I'll pull up channel strip preset for the kick drum because it'll punch through better. It's not necessarily the sound that I want, but at the same time, it'll give the bass player more definition on where he's supposed to hit, as opposed to regular drum set that you want in a recording.
And another thing that I really like about it, the ability to have your mic pre's on the stage, so there's as little copper as possible. Yeah. That's one of the big detriments. The larger place you get into, the more wire there is between the instrument or the microphone and the board.
The more likely you are to have a lightning strike.
Yeah.
In front of house than anything else.
Well, but you get, in addition to having a little bit of loss, which, with a good desk, the pre's are really clean on my Midas, but if you take all that copper out of the equation, there's a lot of capacitance that then is not going into your system.
Right.
So you're not losing some of those highs, some of that definition.
Almost that the quad cable versus standard cable type thing.
Oh, it's more than that. It's a lot.
I know, but like at least as a starting point, like if you're going to learn, even if you're going to get to tone definition and stuff like that, like you're going to get some cable loss. Like if you got 500 feet of copper running from the stage to front of house, you're going to lose some high end.
Yeah. And there's that much more chance for RF interference, electromagnetic interference.
Right.
Now, the SI that I tried out was sort of a direct plug-and-play replacement, and you can probably use it with a digital snake, but it has the pre's right in the box. So, it's designed for, you pull out your Midas or your Yamaha analog desk, you drop the SI in, you plug your snake back in, and off you go.
Right.
With some of the other stuff, a lot of consoles don't have... they all have some, but some of them don't have very many at all. Just, give you a couple of local inputs for some playback or a talkback mic and a couple other things. Yeah. I mean, some of them literally have as few as 4, like the compact Midas.
The SI2 or the compact, I don't remember what it is, but yeah.
Oh, the baby digital Soundcraft,
yep. The real small, we're kind of Soundcraft fans here.
We do love the British.
A little bit.
The British desk,
Other than having to rewire all your inserts and shit, it's pretty good.
Right. Well, I would ditch my inserts, and that's my real favorite thing about digital consoles is that I can have dynamic processing on every input and every output and full parametric EQ or graphic or whatever I want.
Dropping another $20,000.
Right.
Like a quarter of your mortgage.
Yep. And, some people say, well, you wouldn't want to put dynamic processing on every channel, would you? And
yes.
Smack. Not a lot is the key.
Well, if you're running, 12 to 1 on every channel, then no. Right. But if you know what the hell you're doing, then yeah. Like 2 to 1 is not bad on everything. It really makes the mix come together really quite nice.
Or even less than that. Or peak limiting. Mm-hmm. I don't really ever want to compress a piano, but I do want to peak limit it in some instances. Right. And I might want to do it just for one song or one part of a song. So with my digital desk, I can even automate it to time code that, and have it make those changes for me. Like, limit the piano hard for this section, punch the button, we're on to the next session, it comes back off.
Right. The chorus or even the bridge, what they're going to really lay into, like it's... Yeah, you want a dynamic change, but at the same time, you don't want it to override the drums or the vocal, like all that kind of stuff. Like, you want it to play nice with everything else.
Yep. And, like on my desk at work, like when I first went there, I looked at the outboard rack. I was like, yeah, hey, not bad. All right, I got 20-some channels of processing. What more could I want? Like, well,
there's a lot.
I want my old 266s. I kind of wish they were, 1040s or 1066s, and I wish my 1046 was a pair of 1066s. And, what I'm really like having expansion, having the ability to not gate, but just sort of subtly quiet channels, whether it's to take a little buzz out of a quiescent guitar amp that's, just getting a little leakage, or just create some more dynamics in something to make the silent passages in a vocal that much more silent.
Right.
It adds up and quick. I mean, even on a little digital desk like a Presonus, I shudder to think about doing theater without one of those now.
Right.
Just because you can quiet every channel down, you can tame it right down, and it's subtle and it's gentle and it's not gates. It's just
as long as you set the knee right, and it depends on the processor itself. But if you've got a nice enough processor where you can work into that kind of thing, like you were talking, I think earlier this week with the ART MVP or MPV Pro, where you just keep rolling it down, and you don't even notice that you're knocking off 15 dB.
Right.
That kind of stuff, like even with a gate and an expander, like if you can work that kind of stuff and not get the noise and just get what you're working at, as opposed to all the noise, it really helps out in a live mix, especially with theater and stuff like that. Like, I don't do a ton of theater, but at the same time, when I do, I beat John into a pulp and steal all of his outboard and use it as gates, because we got 16 channels of vocals.
I sold that rack to Paul, by the way. Just
beat the crap out of him. Whatever. I got a car. I'll run him over. Paul, if I buy him a burger from Five Guys, he's pretty cool. But still, like, all that kind of stuff, like giving yourself the additive, pretty much giving yourself an advantage to that kind of stuff, if you can. You know, some guys got some stuff, even if it's cheap crap. You know, it helps out a lot to have that kind of starting point to work off of, especially for, you know, you got 16 channels of vocals and a band channel. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah. There's ways to cheat. I mean, you can put compressors on groups, but having that ability on every input and every output, and as you get into some of the bigger stuff, you can drop plugins in, or, you know, if you don't have that choice to drop plugins in, like I know you can on certain desks, like you have your choice of, you know, do you want your compressor to sound vintage? Do you want it modern? Do you want it, you know, whatever? I mean, you have at least a couple of choices
before your limiter, or do you want before your channel strip, before you want your reverb and all that kind of stuff?
Yep. Another thing too is the routing on a number of levels. If you want to do something like have a smash channel, you just go into the routing and send, you know, the lead singer's input to 2 channels, or send it to 3. Do whatever, you know, have one for the house, one for his monitors, and one for a smash channel. There's no limit to it.
That was one of the big wanted to punch whoever designed Logic in the face, was some certain stuff. Like I really like running 2 channels for bass. I'm just running it direct, but in Pro Tools I can double an input and record enable both of them, so I can hear both of them back at the same time. But in Logic, it'll only let me record enable 1 channel at a time, so I can only run, say, channel 10 once, and then I have to double the channel and then reset the plugins and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, Reaper's had that forever, by the way.
Pro Tools, hooker.
I love. What'd you call me?
Hooker. You're sleeping on my couch. What do you want?
Yeah. That's a funny thing about Reaper. Not to diverge into DAWs too much, but I love it when people talk about, oh yeah, did you hear about Pro Tools 9? It does this and it does that. I'm like, oh yeah, Reaper's had that since I started using it 7 years ago. Like, oh yeah, Pro Tools 10's awesome. It does this, it does that. I'm like, yeah, clip-based gain. Really?
Do you know how long you've been able to drive? Cut it out. I've been able to drive for 6 years. Shut that.
I've been using Reaper since before you could drive.
Well, before I was in middle school, you've been using Reaper since.
So where'd we leave off? The digital snake thing is huge.
Yes.
If you're on tour, that's a lot of copper you can leave behind, and there are really some nice robust options. You don't think of it as running like your computer Ethernet cable between the stage and the desk, although it could be in a pinch. So if something goes horribly wrong, you just run down to Office Max, buy a spool of 500, and get your crimpers out and make up a, you know.
I've done that, actually. Yep. We got a Lowe's across the street, but
and there's other options. There's digital options over XLR. There's digital options for Ethernet cable. You can get the EtherCon connections, which is a really robust locking Ethernet connection, and
military grade type stuff.
Right, and the cable. I mean, it doesn't have to be that blue stuff. You pull out from under your desk. There's some seriously beefed up. You can get it with a rubber jacket. You can get it with a metal jacket if you want.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yep, you can get
that fancy.
You can get armored Ethernet cable, military spec. It'll cost you, but when it's the whole show. The other thing is redundancy. When we finally go digital, we're going to have. I'm actually going to take 2 separate paths between the stage box and the mix, so that somebody's doing renovations, they get the Sawzall out and blast through the conduit that has my Ethernet in it.
Right.
There's another one already running, and the board will. Not that anybody would be doing demo work during a service, but something.
In case it happens.
Something goes down, the other one will just instantly pick up.
Right.
The other nice thing too is we don't do this. I mix all my monitors from front of house, but with a digital snake, there's no penalty for taking a split. So if you need a split for Monitor World, if you need a split for Monitor World on the other side of a stage, so you can run 2 Monitor Worlds.
If you run 2 splits, if you run Monitor World and you're running a separate record desk.
Oh, there's no end. I mean,
right.
You could have Monitor World on each side of the, one for the headliner over on stage left, one for the opening acts on stage right, one for Bono, one for the Edge, one for and the recording truck, and the remote feed truck and front of house. You can have 2 desks fed at front of house, one for the openers, one for the headliners. There's no limit and there's no penalty.
I'm pretty sure that's what they do on like nice big tours. Is even if you're running an analog desk front of house, like you've got a digital split, so you got 3 or 2 openers. So you've got your front of house, for say the Foo Fighters, hard patched, no questions asked. When the openers are done, just pull it. Pull that one Cat 5 E cable or Cat 6. Nothing happens. You just lose those inputs on that desk because that desk has been rolled out in a road case and thrown in the back of a semi.
So yeah, a lot of advantages to that. And the beautiful thing is all of this stuff scaled down really, really fast. Like it took, in the grand scheme of things, no time at all for digital consoles to go from being like only the biggest toys for the biggest boys and still a little quirky and a little weird to being really, really nice and dialed in to the point where you can say, I like the way this one sounds a little better. I like the way that one sounds a little better. Right. The way that, the Soundcraft and the Midas guys and the Yamaha guys all have in the past. You can pick the one that suits you and that sounds the way you like. I forgot where I was going again. We're so tired.
Yeah, it's almost 1 in the morning.
No, it's not. Oh, crud, it is.
Yeah.
Where does the time go? But yeah, being able to have, double channels out like that, share inputs. Like the nice thing in a digital network like that is it kind of takes a lot of the guesswork out. I mean, stuff can still get buried in patching menus or something like that, but it's not like in the, the iron and copper days of Snakes where if something's not coming up somewhere, if it shows up at Monitor World, it should be showing up at front of house. Right. Like there's no,
it's not a computer issue. It's someone screwed up the patch.
Yeah. Yep. And there are some, I guess, to talk about the negative sides. I mean, you can get those moments. Like that was a big thing at the beginning. Like, well, digital desks will never be, as reliable. Now they really are.
Right.
Which is not that you don't have your oh crap moments, but I've seen those happen with analog desks. I've seen a power supply go down on a 48 channel front of house console at the last minute.
Not even power supply, but like individual channels. Just in the middle of sound check, just. Oh, well, 17's not working anymore, so we're going to bump everything over.
Yep. Or if you have muting and routing automation, which a lot of analog consoles have actually little Linux boxes inside of them. What do you think's handling all that mute automation and things?
Yeah.
A computer, and if it's a good desk, there's a backup one in there, too, that you can jump over to. But I've heard utter horror stories of guys that mix on, and I'm doing air quotes here, analog. These are the Midas guys we're talking about, that where the VCA controller takes a dump in the middle of the headlining set.
Even on your desk, because that 1 week that you were out of town, Gordon was out of town, and one of your interns was running stuff for you, and I got a panic phone call in the middle of my service. You're like, the whole desk crapped. Like, what? It doesn't work anymore. Get over there. Like, well, I've got 2 more songs to play, so I'll be over there right after that. It turned out just scene 3 on your Midas just wasn't playing nice anymore, so we just bumped over, like copied, pasted onto scene 4, and like, oh, it all works. But scene 3, like, half the guitars don't work, like the snare top doesn't work, but the snare bottom works just fine. Like, no rhyme or reason to it, but it, even though it's in technically, air quotes, analog desk, there's still,
it's a little Linux box.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like, there's stuff that goes wrong.
So yeah, it's really not an argument anymore. Human error is by far the biggest factor. Like, oh, I didn't realize I had that disabled. After you've been chasing gremlins for half an hour right before the doors open, that kind of stuff's going to happen no matter what. So like the reliability is really there. But anyway, talking about things getting good, like the little Yamaha 01Vs, those have been out since I don't know the 90s. They were sort of the forerunners, and they're kind of stupid and they're kind of hard to use and they're kind of quirky and they crash. Some of the small format stuff that's out now, like the Presonus was really a game changer, although it's really just sort of a analog desk with a digital heart.
Yeah.
It's got all the benefits of, parametric EQs on every in and out, patchable graphs, dynamic processing, lots of it on every in and out, all that good stuff.
And but it sounds just like a digital desk.
Sort of, yeah. But it's also it's a little
warmer, but yeah, it's a little.
But yeah, I mean, it's a $3,000 console. So for all that it does, I'm willing to put up with a little bit of hiss if some of the channels are a little hot.
You're not going to use that in an arena, though. Like, you're going to use that, like, what it's built for is what you're going to use it for. You use it for bars, you can use it for small outdoor gigs and stuff where the hiss is not your biggest issue.
Yep. And it's not, things aren't quite there where you can, like, mix on a tablet. It's getting there, but not quite. But, yeah, it's well worth the trade-offs. Like the tiny bit of hiss that's in there to have all that processing at your fingertips and be able to just pull things up really pretty fast. But it is missing the flying faders, so there's not anything you can do in terms of layering. Like you couldn't plug a digital snake into that and get another 24 channels out of it or something like that. Yeah. But
that's that whole analog heart type thing,
right? And somebody was saying to me when I was thinking of buying, well, like, "Well, how are you gonna take that to a bar?" I'm like, well, everything I have on the table at front of house now.
Right,
I could put 2 Personas out there,
right,
and be at this. By the time you buy a 24 channel Allen and Heath,
and put that in a Prius, and drive your
exactly, yeah. But if you think about it, even if you're a small fry, there's a lot of good reason, especially if you're starting out, buy a little digital desk like this new Behringer that's coming out. Our buddy Ike just bought one over in Germany. He's going to test drive it a little bit and hopefully send us some articles, some photos, maybe even some videos.
We're definitely looking forward to that. Like, cause we haven't had a chance to, like...
we really need to get a field trip. They have them...
Without Gordon's credit card.
They have them at Guitar Center now. You can actually get your hands on one.
Right, yeah, but without Gordon's credit card, we're kind of broke, so...
So, okay, $3,000 gets you a little Presonus or a little Behringer. The Behringer's nice. You can use digital snakes. It's a full flying fader, full recall console, 32 channels, layers... lots of versatility in it. The alternative for $3,000, all right, you can get like an Allen and Heath GL 2400, 24 channel, 6-space rack with a Furman in it, an M1, couple channels of DBX compression, couple channels of DBX EQ. You're at the same price as either one of those desks, and you have 2 more things to carry into the building.
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah. If you don't have wheels on it, like especially for a speedy load in, load out time type thing, because like that's one of the things we look at, like. If it's going to take us 2 hours to set and repatch something as opposed to come in, drop in 24 hard patch lines from the stage, or even our own stuff we got to set up, like we got to repatch, reinsert, all that kind of stuff, make sure that everything's patched American instead of British or British instead of American.
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
Well, and the benefits in a changeover are just amazing. I mean, whether it's like festival stage, the headliner does their sound check at 9 in the morning, and then you move on through other stuff. Well, when they come back around at 9 at night to play, you just pull up their stuff.
Right.
You tweak a little bit, whatever. Do your line check, get things going.
At least you got a solid starting point instead of having to go kick, other kick.
Yeah.
Like,
well, but I've got the situation where, I've had to, do a service, stop that, do an event, and then do a service again. Like, I've got an event in my room this weekend. There's this big conference going on, and the scheduled end time is 5 minutes before rehearsal starts for my Saturday night service. So
it's the iron sharpens iron thing again, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Which, cool, whatever. That's part of the mission. We're doing it. But if they don't run over, I've got 5 minutes to make all the changes that I've got to make and get my band up and running. Now, we've stacked the deck. It's the same band. Is going to stay right through. A couple minute changes, so I don't have to...
That was crap last year. Like, not crap, but like... Because I did that last year for you. Like,
yeah, I thought I wasn't around for it.
Yeah, no, you weren't. Like, you were doing the movie or whatever. But like, we had one of your interns or one of the guys, one of the volunteers do it, and then had me come in for service. Like, run through sound check. Everybody's hand is up. Like, so do you want kick drum? Everybody's hand is up. Snare. Everybody's hand is up. Toms. 2 hands go down. Like, like it was a half an hour sound check, and I only had 5 minutes.
Yeah. So yeah, going through the changes, especially in a multi-purpose venue, it's like gold.
And one of my personal favorite things that I would love to have for a digital desk, I know the M7 has it for sure. A little like almost an iLock type thing, where you show up and you've got your USB drive and you plug it in, and if you don't have it, it doesn't work. And there are a lot of volunteers and a lot of people that I don't want touching my desk. So if if I just want them to be able to turn on and run a playback track and 2 wireless mics, okay. Everything else, please don't screw with, or you have an iLock or, whatever USB jump drive, and then it all works. That type of thing.
I'm not big on locking stuff out like that, but I would like to be able to just pull out my drive.
You have more trustworthy people than I do.
I guess so. Or maybe I'm more intimidating, but
that's possible.
I don't like to encourage that. Like, I'm smart and I know what I'm doing and you don't, so you don't get to touch my stuff. Like, people are never going to learn like that. So I encourage people to mess with my stuff. And
I'm Jewish. It's different.
I rely on thanks for working that in there, so I don't have to. I want to encourage people to mess with stuff. I always tell them, like, go ahead, just mix. If you screw it up, I'll unscrew it for you. Like, whatever.
Right.
But the bigger things get, the harder that is to do. And, being able to pull something out of your pocket and reload your show pretty much instantly that's pretty huge.
It's kind of job security type thing.
Yeah. There are some downsides, though. I had just gotten our friend Chachi set up to mix some theater for us. Everything was running smooth. I went home. I sat down at dinner with my family. Phone rings. John, the board's gone. Like, what do you mean it's gone? Somebody steal it? Like, no, it's cleared. It's cleared. There's nothing here. It's cleared. Like, oh, yeah, I guess I need to show you how to save presets on that. All right, I'm half an hour away. Get started putting stuff back.
Right.
So
I'm on vacation. Even on the analog desk, I got 6 phone calls and 2 hours and 45 minutes about how to repatch and re-EQ and reinsert things. Even though I didn't touch anything,
I'm excited though about this whole being able to mix remotely. Like,
yeah.
I want a VPN into that stuff and mix church from my room.
Yep. From your couch.
It'll stop me having to fix things via text message when I'm not available. Have done it.
Yeah. Well, she's sleeping now, but yeah, my wife would attest to...
Your wife?
My wife. Yeah, my wife would attest to that. Well, she's pretty close to 30, so it might be a wife. I guess. I'm going to get slapped tomorrow for that.
Good thing we're not under the jurisdiction of the FCC. All right. Well, we didn't do a very methodical job about going through the benefits of digital desks. I think it's pretty obvious, though, that we're proponents, and so are a lot of other people in the world.
You gotta embrace new technology. Like, it's old guys on analog desks were very much a proponent of new stuff coming out. Guys back, actually engineering the Trident desks, the Neve desks, and the API stuff. They're very much looking forward to a spot where they could hit a button and save presets, or at least save a screenshot of what they were doing.
Oh yeah,
reset stuff. It's got nothing to do with new technology. It does have to do with new technology, but at the same time, you can't. When digital first came out, yeah, it was an issue. There were some problems and stuff, but at the same time, we've got serious engineers behind all this stuff now, and they're really working at stuff and really trying to get the best out of everything. So it's not, if you got a couple hiccups here and there, it's not a big deal, but technology is moving forward. It's back from almost a landline to a cell phone type thing, where stuff's moving forward and you can't help but embrace it. So
yep. I think those holdouts will always be there. I don't know. Right. That's kind of a good thing. Like, I love that there are still big recording consoles places that are all Class A.
Oh yeah, everybody's using Studers and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, there's stuff that you can move forward with.
Oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, I would be kind of sad if there weren't the Midas guys in the world.
Oh,
like,
I can. What would you do without Roman? Other than. Never mind.
Have nightmares about sweatpants. But yeah, I mean, like, my desk in particular, the Legend, has some features on it that are really going to make me miss it when I go digital. Like, I'm going to have to really sit down and think hard about how I'm going to work around some things that it does very easily and very flawlessly and very transparently. So
and it'll work out. Like, it's not something that's you're not going to be able to work out. It's just something you're going to have to work more towards, and that's the same thing where, you have to work a little bit harder to learn how to text message on one of those old school, what are those, Qualcomm phones? Remember those?
Yeah.
Qualcomm phones, as opposed to just calling somebody. Like, it's easier now to text somebody than get a phone call. Like, it's 100 times easier to get a hold of John via text than it is to call him, because he's usually in the middle of something. It's not a problem. It's just it's
not usually. I always am. Just ask my bank.
Right.
But I don't know. There is a certain romance. Like I definitely fall prey to that. Like I do occasionally sometimes miss the real tape days. And there is something romantic about. It's just a different feel when you're standing behind a mountain of an analog console.
Yeah.
And like, okay, maybe you can't address 192 inputs, and maybe you can't do this and you can't do that, but there is something just a little bit cool about standing behind the big iron, as they call it.
Oh, yeah.
And on the studio side, too. I mean, layers of things and, stems and all this stuff. Like, I don't know, the fact that, like, everybody, like, the big thing now is, like, these 500 series modules and the 200 series modules, these little deals. Like, that's a cool way to have a little bit of analog loving in your studio. But, like, the whole concept behind these things, that, these little EQ and mic pre and compressor modules were originally meant to slot into desks. Like, that's where
the size,
which is what makes it's so hard for me to understand, like, why the old school analog guys don't want to mess with plugins. Like, you guys invented plugins. Like,
you're the reason that they're around.
Right?
Yeah.
So
someone that had taken my whole probably more with my whole living room. Like, if you look at an old, or not even old, but Jack Joseph Weed desk or Chris Lord Alge desk, you're looking at it, you're like, well, I could have this or have somewhere to sit in my house.
or a house.
Or a house. Yeah, like, oh, God, their desk costs more than probably making a quarter of a lifetime. Probably more than my whole lifetime, really. But there's exactly, there's that romance. Like, it's something between playing, for me personally, a classic, 52 Telecaster, 54 Strat, as opposed to one of those new Variax guitars that does, quote unquote, everything. It's not the same. There's difference, and there's pros and cons to both, but you got to decide what outweighs each one personally. Like, we can't make that decision for you. It's something you got to do on your own.
Well said. What are we watching? Like, we have to start turning the TV off.
The World Series is over. This is crap. I don't know what this is.
Really got to start turning the TV off when we do these things.
Yeah.
Make people feel like we're actually paying attention to them. All right, so I think we've rambled about digital desks enough. We're actually going to finish here slightly under an hour because it's the witching hour, and I got to be back at it early tomorrow. So does Anth. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with us, even though things are getting a little sparse here. Glad to see the few hits that we are getting on the website trickling in. Glad to see that our listeners are still coming by to check out the podcast, and we will keep trying to do as much as we can for you as the time goes by. And
amen.
Yes, and amen.
Yes, and amen.
But yeah, worst case scenario, we'll slip podcasts in when we can, and if we get some time and some energy, we will write some posts for you. Hey, if you want to write a post in the meantime,
give us some topics, because really,
we're past topics. If you have a fully fleshed, edited, and fact-checked article that you'd like to send in, we're not hard to find, and we're not picky.
We don't really fact-check much either, so.
Actually, that reminds me, Nate sent me a whole thing.
Yeah.
A whole thing. I forget what it was even about, but it was like hot on the heels of 4 other articles that we had written about it, so I let it slide at the time.
Amanda actually half wrote my next playlist for me. She wants me to do a Josh Groban album.
Ooh.
So that's going to be a work for me.
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, you do.
Never mind. It's time to listen to Motorhead and drift off to Betty Buys.
Let's listen to some heavy metal and close this shit out.
I should fly in a little Motorhead for the end of this one.
Yeah.
Although, not that our usual fade-out music is that bad. It's pretty metal-y. All right. Well, this has been the Smart to Noise Ratio Pro Audio Podcast, Ramble Hour. So anyway, thanks to one and all for sticking in. Thanks for tuning in. If you're a listener but not yet a reader, please check out the blog at smart2noise.blogspot.com.
We're on Twitter, the blog, and because I'm an attention whore, really, at heart.
He's like a little poodle.
Not as fluffy anymore. I trimmed.
Mm-hmm. His hair, his head, his coiffure.
Whatever I trimmed. You dig me up, look at the playlist and stuff. My Twitter handle's on there. There's some fairly good audio nerd speak Twitter posts or whatever the hell they are.
If we do say so ourselves.
Right, yeah. There's some good rambling on there. So
yep.
Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. Whatever YouTube channel we're on now. I think it's Smart to Noise blog, whatever. Follow us. Hang out with us. We really love to hear back your feedback, your input, all that kind of stuff. If you want to swing by, we'll watch some Sherlock Holmes and some comic book movies with you. All that kind of stuff. It's not a big TV, but
yeah, every Wednesday night
we'll work something out.
The pizza's cold, and so is the living room.
Yeah, we're poor and Jewish, whatever.
Yeah, all right.
We should probably end that now after.
Yeah, and cut
before we get into anything where I need to pay reparations for people.
You've offended.
I've offended my own people. That's what we do. All right, we should probably cut
all right, but yeah, definitely do drop us a line. We do read that stuff and pay attention to it. We try to do our best to respond to everything, although sometimes it's not the huge quantities of stuff that are watching it. It's just that sometimes those emails just show up on the wrong day.
Yep.
And I'll read it like between the car and work and just forget about it.
While he's driving too, so really just send that shit in so we can see how much we can get John's deductible up to.
Yikes. All right.
He's going to be sleeping on my couch for a while.
Cool. So, thank you. Good night, wherever you are.
Have a good night, ladies.